I always love making these videos, looking back on the year gone by and, even if a little belatedly, reliving the best new releases of the previous 12 months. Let's take a look at them now, starting us off at number 20 with Thunder Road. Jim Cummings' low-budget debut understands exactly what makes comedy so great, and that's the underlying depression and tragedy that surrounds it. The film's direction and editing are effective, letting you stew in situations as they become unbearable to watch as the central character's life just crashes around him. And though Cummings' central performance may sometimes falter, it's still an incredibly engaging film well worth your time. Next up at number 19 we have Takashi Miike's latest fever dream, First Love. This movie is insane. Starting off tonally akin to something like Battles Without Honor or Humanity, but then spiraling off into a madcap comedy of errors, Miike straddles the line between fun, popcorny chaos and gory B-movie insanity perfectly, keeping you on the edge of your seat while you wonder what on earth is going to happen next. The film is both brilliantly funny and has a good amount of OTT action with everything one could imagine, and it's something that I will no doubt be watching again. At number 18 we have The Nightingale. Babadook director Jennifer Kent manages to find something more terrifying than her previous film, and that's the horrors of colonialism. This is just a relentlessly miserable movie, and there's absolutely no shred of pleasantry to be found here. If you can stomach that, however, I found this a very rewarding film. The direction is pitch perfect, and the Academy Ratio cinematography of the Tasmanian landscape manages to be both beautiful and threatening. Aisling Franciosi and Bakali Ganamba give fantastic lead performances, and their relationship feels very realistic to its colonial context, and the film's twist on its rape revenge narrative is a very timely reclamation of a story usually told by men about women. Number 17, Lords of Chaos. This is perhaps the most underrated film of the year. I know some metal purists really didn't like this film, but honestly that doesn't matter. Beginning like a typical rock and roll biopic, but morphing into a story about toxic masculinity and macho facadism, the film actually acknowledges that Mayhem was a band made up of some pretty fucked up people. Though some of the supporting performances are, let's be real, rubbish, Rory Culkin and Emery Cohen were absolutely outstanding in the lead roles, creating very sensitive portrayals of characters attempting to be anything but. The script manages to balance the film's heavy elements with a lot of great deadpan comedy, and former Bathory guitarist Jonas Akalan directs the film with the same polish as his music videos. The film really deserved more love than it got, and I found myself thinking about it long after the credits had rolled. Number 16. Little Women. I think we can all agree that Greta Gerwig got majorly snubbed during awards season for her directing this year. Being my first trip into Alcott's novel, I found this a charming and thoroughly engaging watch. The performances are almost universally brilliant across the board, with Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh easily being worthy of their nominations. The film also looks great, and the directing, cinematography and editing effortlessly converge together to keep you glued to the screen, and there are some truly outstanding moments in the writing as well. This is a lovely, warm and charming film that deserves all the praise it got, and it's well worth watching if for some reason you haven't already. At number 15 we have The Farewell, an even bigger award snub. Lulu Wang's script was perhaps the best of the year, being both funny and melancholic, as well as presenting the culture clash narrative in a way that's both incredibly nuanced and rather challenging. Awkwafina's lead performance is outstanding, and you really feel for her while intellectually understanding the film's counter-narrative, and her interactions with Shui Zhenxiao's Nai Nai are almost painful to watch as you see her character holding back her emotions. This was correctly one of the indie darlings of the year, and I could not recommend it more. At number 14 we have High Life. Precious few films have made me leave the cinema feeling genuinely dirty and uncomfortable, but Claire Denis' English language debut did exactly that. Beautifully and disconcertingly shot, the film is a sight to behold, sucking you into its world and forcing you to stew in the unfolding discomfort. Robert Pattinson and Juliette Binoche are as good as ever, and the film's score perfectly complements the film's oppressive tones. Though I don't think this film is anywhere near perfect, it shoots so high and succeeds in enough that I found it one of the most memorable cinematic experiences of the year. Number 13. Marriage Story. Noah Baumbach's divorce drama is an acting powerhouse. Driver, Johansson, Dern and Arkin give performances that belong up there with each of their best works. The script is witty at times, but never lets the moments of levity undercut how serious the breakdown of this couple's marriage is and the effect it has on their child. And both sides of the proceedings are given ample space to show both their merits and flaws as well. This is a very intelligent drama and one that I would definitely recommend. Number 12. Hail Satan. Penny Lane's documentary on United States Satanists is both incredibly funny and surprisingly detailed and insightful. Tackling everything from the rise of evangelism to the separation of church and state through the eyes of the activism of the notably diverse and secular Satanic Temple, the film is a complete blast to watch, and some of the news footage, both current day and from the Satanic Panic, is gleefully absurd. But there's also a serious point to be made here about how religion manages to creep its way into US public life. It's also really interesting to hear from the Satanists themselves, all of whom seem like pretty awesome people, and to see the growth of the organization moving far beyond what any of the founders had clearly expected. At number 11, we have my favourite documentary of the year, Minding the Gap. Following a group of skater kids from the Rust Belt growing up into adulthood and dealing with their troubled past, this is a truly personal and heart-wrenching film. Shot by one of the film's subjects, seeing exactly what these kids were skating to escape from and how their lives turn out as they make their way into adulthood is an incredibly intimate experience, and the film is not afraid to dive headfirst into its subject matter. In addition to all of that, however, there's also some pretty neat 2000s skateboarding footage, and it's shot fantastically, especially considering that many of the scenes were just old footage of kids messing around with a camera. Ultimately, this is one you really have to be in the mood for, but nonetheless I found it a truly captivating film. At number 10, we have perhaps the biggest surprise hit of the year, Bait. This is a truly special film. Shot on an old Clockwork 16mm camera and processed in a shed, the film is both sincerely homemade and fantastically well made as well. The editing is masterful, and some of the shots recall to mind old travel logs. All of the actors, many of them no-namers, give very sincere and realistic performances, and the script manages to be both funny and dramatic, but also has a lot of weight to it, with each character and their dilemmas feeling very three-dimensional. The film managed to be so successful that not only are there still showings of it 6 months on from its initial release, but even the Odeon picked it up for a limited run. This is a great British success story, and if you haven't had a chance to watch it, then please do yourself a favour and check this one out. Number 9. The Irishman. This 3.5-hour mob epic ranks among Scorsese's best films, and it's a true return to form, perhaps being his best since his remake of Cape Fear back in 1991. Both Robert De Niro and Al Pacino give performances reminiscent of their golden age before they started taking every paycheck that was offered to them, and the script very adeptly knows how to utilize them. It very much feels like a movie out of its time, like one of those classic mob movies from the late 70s, early 80s that for some reason is getting its release in 2019. And it really does live up to that level of quality, transcending its genre conventions in its final act and becoming truly reflective. While the digital de-aging did take some getting used to, the film is a hell of a ride, and the 3.5-hour odd runtime just flies by, something no doubt down in part to Scorsese's usual kinetic direction and the film's outstanding performances, and it's a film that truly earned the praise it received. At number 8 and sitting just above Scorsese's epic is Avengers Endgame. This is how to end an era. Taking time and patience to properly come to terms with the real-world implications of Infinity War's shock ending before going on a self-reflexive adventure paying tribute to a decade's worth of blockbusters, before ending with what could have been the biggest CGI mess if it wasn't held together so well, Marvel's Avengers Endgame was truly almost more of an event than a film. And it's unsurprising that this became the highest-grossing film of all time, even if it did need an impromptu re-release to put it there. Seeing this at midnight on opening night was truly one of the most memorable cinematic experiences I've ever had. You certainly get your fun Marvel movie here, but also a lot of smaller scale character drama that I'm surprised at just how well it was executed. I'm not even the biggest Marvel fan, but I really enjoyed this one, and I have absolutely no qualms putting this piece of cinema in my top 10 films of the year. At number 7, we have So Long, My Son. Exploring the impact of Chinese social policy on one family from the 1980s to present day, Wang Xiaoshai's epic melodrama is a fantastically intriguing movie. Everything about the way each period is presented, from the costumes to the music to the food to the government policies themselves, is just really interesting to see play out on screen. All the actors are superb, and the situations the characters find themselves in are just so real that the film becomes very difficult to watch at points. At over 3 hours long, the film does feel like sitting through an entire miniseries back to back, but it's 100% worth it, and it manages to be consistently engaging despite its extended runtime. It's a real showcase of some fantastic filmmaking, shot with an eye for subtlety in both the setting and the characters, and the history the film discusses is shown in the most human of lights, putting government policy firmly in the personal context rather than just in abstract politics. Number 6. Jojo Rabbit. A little more comedic than my last pick, but no less important, Taika Waititi's satire of Nazi ideology and the Hitler Youth is easily the director's best work. The film is very funny, but also has a lot of heart and sentiment to it, and I don't think it would have succeeded anywhere near as much as it did if it wasn't for Roman Griffin's fantastic central performance. You really just feel for the kid despite his Nazi fanaticism, and Taika Waititi as Hitler would make the great Mel Brooks proud. Also, the film's music choices are outstanding, and the track chosen for the film's opening credits perfectly sets the scene for the movie's satire. This film firmly sold me on Waititi as a preeminent filmmaker, and it's one of the most likable and engaging of the year. Starting off the top 5, we have Uncut Gems. Adam Sandler gives the performance of the year, and it's a performance that can happily sit alongside something like Punch Drunk Love. He just completely transforms himself, and that's not only down to his commitment to the role and the excellent costuming, but also the fantastic script that just rockets you into the world he's made so chaotic. The film just keeps amping up the tension and it doesn't stop till its incredible climax. It's both a fantastic character study of Sandler's gambling-addicted shyster jeweler and an absolutely edge-of-your-seat thriller. The Safdies have really come a long way as directors. I remember seeing Heaven Knows What back in the day and being really unimpressed, but between this and Good Time, they really have honed their craft. And the weird off-kilter score by One-O-Tricks Point Never manages to perfectly meld with the film's very gritty style. This is a film that I've found myself thinking about constantly since I saw it, and one that I will no doubt be watching again very soon. At number 4, we have Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I don't even know what I could say that could do this movie justice. Everything about this movie, from the setting to the costumes to the acting to the script to the music to the relationship at its center, is just sublime. The film transports you to this remote estate in the south of France and you're just there, in this world with these characters. Celine Sciamma's direction is pitch perfect. Every shot just leaps out of the screen, and the acting from everyone is just so subtle and engaging, with every small mannerism managing to mean so much. It also has a great selective use of music that knows just when to add energy to a scene and exactly when to leave it blank and just let the acting and script do its work. This is an absolute masterwork of a film and one that was very deserving of all the praise that it received. Number 3. Midsommar. I'm genuinely quite amazed that this didn't end up being my film of the year. Second to Sandler, Florence Pugh may have given the performance of the year as well. Her character feels so incredibly genuine and you find yourself absolutely immersed in her as a real person and not simply a character in a film. Pugh's performance isn't the only magnetic force in the film, however, and the movie's direction, cinematography and editing just draws you into this world, allowing takes to go on for as long as they need to but without drawing too much attention to itself as it slowly and surely builds tension. At the heart of this movie, however, isn't simply a scare fest, but the story of a relationship that was never particularly healthy and is imploding at the seams. And that's conveyed through the absolutely masterful script that manages to make this couple's dynamic feel absolutely authentic even in the most surreal of places. This film is an absolute revelation and was easily the biggest surprise of the year, with many people who I wouldn't have expected to watch a film like this falling head over heels in love with it. Number 2. The Lighthouse. Many films attempt to ask how much is real and how much is madness, but this is one of the few that actually succeeds. It's a masterclass in atmosphere. Its gorgeous black and white cinematography and its clunky, industrial, ever-present soundscape encapsulates you into this evocative feeling of isolation and anxiety. Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are outstanding and their performances are loaded with subtleties, as indeed the film as a whole is, with small little story details that I found myself discussing with people, some of whom didn't even notice them. Just like the mix of realism and surrealism that Midsommar possesses, this film absolutely nails the combination of the two. This is 100% what would happen if these two people were stuck on an island together with nothing but massive supplies of strong alcohol. And then on top of that, you have the absolutely excellent and haunting possible dream sequences and paranoia therein. If there's one film this year that must be seen in the cinema, then it is definitely this one. I usually like to leave a pause here for dramatic effect before revealing what my favourite film of the year is, but I think for omission it's fairly obvious. It may be the boring choice and literally everyone else's favourite, but that doesn't make it any less worthy. My favourite film of the year is Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho. This film is a success in a way few films could even aspire to be. It succeeds as a comedy exploring class and capital. It succeeds as a dark drama about how an economic system like this functions. It succeeds as a thriller, ever-changing, constantly keeping you on the edge of your seat. But most importantly, it succeeds in being one of the most truly unique films to be released in a very long time. Bong's directing is outstanding. He's a master at his craft. Not a single shot is wasted and it all builds together to make a film that manages to be as effective as it is enjoyable. Similarly, the writing manages to be both funny and dramatic. It's a movie with so many moving parts that a lesser filmmaker would have completely toppled over under the weight of its own ambition, but the script, directing and acting all hold it together seamlessly. Everyone here is at the top of their game, and I'm going to pay extra attention now to film starring Kang Ho Song as well as the litany of other fantastic actors in this film. The movie's art direction also deserves a massive shout out, with the design of the affluent Park's home proving to be one of the most, if not the most memorable set of the decade, constantly leering off into unexpected places. I think this might be the only instance of the Oscars genuinely picking the actual best film for their top prize, at least since I've been properly following cinema. Bong Joon-ho and everyone else involved in this film have made a truly incredibly special film, and it will no doubt sit alongside films such as Oldboy in terms of being the place to start with modern Korean cinema. This is going to be one of those films that everyone ends up watching when they start making their journey into film, and that could not be more well deserved. Watch this movie. Watch it again and again and again, because Parasite is my favourite film of 2019. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all doing okay during the coronavirus emergency and that maybe you got a couple of good recommendations from this video. If you made it this far in the video and you got to the end, I really appreciate it. maybe consider subscribing even if you want, or liking it. I don't know. Do your choice. Do what you want. I'm not asking you to do anything. Um, yeah. Hopefully I can just sort of continue to grow my channel this year, and this will all end very soon, and we can go outside to the cinema again and see friends. That would be very nice. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a good evening or day, whenever you're watching this. Bye.